The last memory of my father before he left was him saying, "I'll always take care of you, my princess." At that time, I was 16, too naive to doubt his words and foolish enough to believe they held meaning. My name is Reagan, and this narrative is about realizing karma works on its schedule. That particular morning stands vivid in my memory. Mom was engrossed in her pancake-making ritual for our Sunday breakfast, the kitchen enveloped in the scent of vanilla and coffee. Dad was supposedly out running errands, and his absence at the breakfast table should have been the first red flag. "He's been gone a while," Mom noted, attempting a casual tone, while flipping pancakes. "Did he mention where he was going?" I stayed engrossed in my phone, just errands like always. At exactly 10:47 a.m. the doorbell shattered the morning calm. Curiously, I checked my phone, thinking perhaps Dad had forgotten his keys again. Instead, an envelope awaited us. The courier held out a tablet, seeking a signature from Mrs. Lucas. Mom signed, drying her hands on the apron. Her face blanched upon opening the envelope, and she sank into Dad's unoccupied chair. "Mom?" I put my phone aside. "What happened?" "Those were divorce papers." Mom weakly handed them over with trembling hands. He had decided to serve her divorce papers on a peaceful Sunday morning while we were making pancakes. "This must be mistaken," I uttered, though I secretly knew otherwise. The signs had been apparent: the late night office work, secretive calls, a new passcode on his phone. My phone buzzed with a message from him. "I'm sorry you found out this way. I'll explain soon." That soon materialized 3 days later in a coffee shop downtown. He wasn't alone. Marissa, his secretary, accompanied him, now wearing a shining diamond ring. "Reagan, love," he started, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "This isn't how things were meant to be, but life sometimes takes unexpected turns." I laughed, albeit hollowly, like draining my college fund. "Was that unexpected too?" His face turned pale. "How did your mom check the accounts?" "Every penny gone." I felt tears forming but refused to show them. "What happened to 'I'll always take care of you'?" Marissa shifted awkwardly. "Bennett, maybe we should—" "No," I interrupted. "Let him explain." "I want to hear how Justify is taking away his daughter's future." "I didn't steal anything," he argued, voice raising. "The money was mine. We needed it for our new start." "Your new start?" I whispered back. "You mean the new house, new wife, new baby?" His head shot up. "How did you— Facebook isn't private, Dad." "Congrats, by the way." I stood, chair scraping audibly on the floor. Others glanced over, but I didn't mind anymore. "Reagan, please," he implored. "We'll figure this out. Maybe student loans or community college first." "No need," I replied, gathering my things. "You've done enough." As I moved to leave, Marissa's voice lingered. "She'll come around, Bennett. She just needs time." I paused one last time, turning to face him. "Funny, Dad, how you always said actions have consequences." "We'll soon see if that's true." That night, I sat staring at my dream university's acceptance letter, which financial constraints rendered useless. Mom found me there hours later. "We'll find a way," she affirmed, her hand on my shoulder. "Yes, we will." I started drafting applications for scholarships, grants, anything possible. The acceptance letter now a beacon of motivation. The father who tried breaking me by stealing my future inadvertently fueled a stronger resolve within me. Success would be mine, not only for myself, but to show him what he discarded. That third coffee cup for the day lay beside me at the diner where I worked late hours. Esther sat across from me. "You'll soon vibrate out of your shoes with all that caffeine." "I have deadlines," I explained amid scholarship forms. Working multiple jobs at a campus bookstore, tutoring, and here left sleep as an unaffordable luxury. Esther, meeting at tutoring, became my best ally. "Let me assist," she insisted, making light of my chaotic handwriting. When new customers arrived, Esther's frown over her phone marked my return. "Your dad posted about his baby." My reaction was steady as I filled coffee. "Another perfect family picture?" "Reagan, it's all right," I reassured myself. I lacked time for his social media charades. Yet, late that night, his profile drew me him, Marissa, baby Sadie, all in matching sweaters. A manager glanced my frazzled appearance at the bookstore. "Take a break," Mike guided me to his office. A scholarship for student workers had just opened, full ride, he emphasized, hinting I topped his list but cautioned silence. Hope flickered dimly after mounting rejections, but now it strode beside me. Later, while tutoring, a call persisted. Finally, I answered. "Hello? Reagan? It's Dad." My throat tightened. "I'm busy," I replied. "I noticed your scholarship applications at my company." In the midst of reviewing bills and application forms in my small studio apartment, my laptop pinged with an email notification. The subject line read, University application status update. With trembling hands, I opened it, and the first line made my heart miss a beat. Congratulations, we are pleased to offer you admission. I read it multiple times before it sank in. I was accepted into my dream school, the one I had aimed for long before my life started unraveling. Elated, I called Mom first, unable to hide my excitement when she picked up. I got in, I exclaimed, a grin wide on my face. Her joy mirrored my own. Oh honey, I'm so proud of you. While I wasn't sure how I'd financially manage, I was determined to figure it out somehow. You will, she said with certainty. You're stronger than anyone I know. After the call ended, I focused on the acceptance letter again despite the daunting estimated costs. I resolved not to let fear overpower me. I'd work harder, even if it meant less sleep, whatever it took. My phone buzzed with a new message from Esther urging me to check the email, asking if I got in. Smiling, I replied I got in. The time had come to make the impossible possible, and although it seemed like an extraordinary feat, it was a necessary venture. The journey was akin to scaling a mountain with my hands tied behind my back. Yet I'd rather chart my own ascent than opt for the easy route my father proposed. Some of the hardest paths are the ones that lead you right where you need to be. Upon arriving at Thompson Hall, my new home for the year, Melia, my roommate, welcomed me with exuberance akin to a game show host. At the cramped dorm room, it was paradise for me, a validation of my efforts against all odds. You've packed lightly, Melia observed as I unpacked. A travel light, I answered, arranging my thrifted bedspread, choosing not to elaborate that it wasn't a choice. Well, feel free to borrow anything you need. Mikasa is Sukasa, she kindly offered, gesturing towards her bulging closet. Falling into a new routine between daily classes, a work-study job at the library during nights, and weekends spent either studying or waitressing off campus, sleep became a long-forgotten concept. Yet, maintaining a perfect GPA was essential. Melia urged me to join clubs for some reprieve. At least attend the business leaders' meet tomorrow, she suggested, highlighting it as a networking opportunity along with the lure of free pizza. I acquiesced, unable to resist free food. At the meeting, I met Elias, who was discussing internship opportunities when our eyes met. While reaching out for pizza, he approached me teasingly. Oh, you're the one who actually took notes during my boring talk. Not boring at all, I retorted, though lightening up on jargon could help, I added, making him laugh. Introductions were quickly exchanged, and after the meeting, we conversed long into the evening. Why choose business? He inquired. I enjoy understanding intertwined elements like money, markets, and people, I explained. He raised an eyebrow, sensing there was more to it. Before I could elaborate, a Facebook alert appeared on my phone. Bennett Lucas has tagged you in a photo. Suddenly nervous, I opened it and saw myself as a child, perched on my father's shoulders at a carnival, caption missing my firstborn today #throwback Thursday by my father. Elias noticed my discomfort, asking if I'd seen a ghost. Just my father's newest attempt at public absolution, I shared, recounting tales of the divorce, college fund theft, and his new family. What a jerk, Elias declared candidly, making me chuckle despite myself. Yet, not winning any Father of the Year awards, I agreed. His own father had exited when he was 12, leaving the occasional Christmas card. We sat comfortably silent for a while, united in understanding each other's hurts without extra words. The following day, as I was shelving books in the library, two students talked about a full-ride alumni scholarship for exemplary leadership and community impact. An idea began forming, ambitious yet necessary, just the kind of plan I needed. That evening I delved into research, drafting proposals and listing potential sponsors during breaks between classes the next day. Watching me sketch in my notebook during lunch, Melia quipped, "You're scheming something, I know that look." Maybe, I conceded, not revealing more until perfection was reached. Another notification from my father flashed. A photo of baby's first steps, laden with congratulatory comments which Alessa noticed. "You don't need to see that," he mentioned, appearing unexpectedly, but had become a regular part of our lunch crew. I nodded, closing the app, though sometimes the reminders served a purpose. A reminder of why I was striving so hard. I motioned to my plans. Success is the best revenge, isn't it? Revenge is ephemeral, but success endures, he advised. Later that evening, closing the library, I stumbled upon a note in my bag from Elias, outlining his support and readiness to assist. Smiling, I tucked the note safely. Everything was gradually coming together. My father thought he could write me out of his life, assimilating a new family, but I was crafting my own narrative, one with an unexpected twist. "Reagan, wake up!" I startled awake, face down on a textbook, Elias peering over concerned. "What time?" I groggily inquired, wiping drool. 3:00 a.m., he replied, settling across from me, mentioning it was the third time this week he found me thus. "There's a midterm tomorrow," I replied, arranging my papers coupled with a business ethics presentation in a double shift. "You risk burning out at this pace," he stated, shutting my book decisively, insisting on escorting me home. As we walked the desolate campus under the brisk October night, my limbs felt heavy, my eyelids even more so. To keep me awake, he implored me to share something secret. "Why?" I asked. "Because you look ready to kiss the pavement, and talking will stave that off," came the honest reply. Too weary to contest, I opened up about a recurring dream of my family home before it all crumbled. Dad making his cherished Sunday standing outside my dorm. I hesitated to go in, still shaken from the dream where I always failed to stop him from leaving. Elias, noticing my turmoil, softly urged, "Go on." Despite my efforts to speak, no sound escapes as I watched the scene play out repeatedly. "I think you're still trying to save him," Elias suggested, "but he's not the one who needs saving." Before I could reply, my phone buzzed. A text from my mom informed me, "Your dad called. He's coming to campus next week for an alumni event." Suddenly, the exhaustion I felt morphed into a cold dread. "Bad news?" Elias inquired, sensing my change in demeanor. "My father's visiting," I replied with shaky hands, "and he's bringing his new family." Elias was quick to offer support, firmly saying, "You don't have to see him." "Yes, I do," I whispered, steeling myself against the idea of hiding. In class the next day, my mind was elsewhere, and Professor Martinez had to call my name twice. "Miss Lucas, your thoughts on ethical leadership?" she pressed. Sorry, I straightened up, thinking aloud. Ethics often clash with personal gain, and leaders find ways to justify their choices. "Interesting," she noted. "You might want to explore that further in your final paper." Later, Malia confronted me. "What's going on with you? You're acting strange." Reluctantly, I admitted my father's coming to campus next week for some alumni event. "The alumni mixer?" she asked, scrolling through her phone. "They're launching new scholarship initiatives at that event." My heart sank. He'd be there, probably showcasing his image as a benevolent businessman. That night, unable to sleep, I found solace in the 24-hour campus coffee shop, sifting through old family photos. A particular picture from my 16th birthday stood out. It marked the last year before he left. A voice brought me back to reality. Elias was there with 2 coffee cups in hand. "Sorry," he said, offering me one. "Didn't mean to sneak up on you." "I don't look like him," I retorted sharply, then added, "Sorry. I'm scared, angry, and I was just so tired." Tired of pretending everything's fine, of juggling 3 jobs and maintaining perfect grades while he parades his perfect new life online, I vented. Elias listened quietly, then said, "He probably thinks he's affecting you with his charade, but look at you. Top of our class, working hard, creating something genuine. You're everything he's pretending to be." For the first time, I saw Elias in a new light. "Why are you here at 4 a.m.? "Because sometimes," he replied with a small smile, "people need reminding of their strength, even at 4 a.m. in a coffee shop." As the sun rose, casting long shadows across campus, I felt a resolve solidify. In a week's time, my father would walk these paths again. But this was my ground now, and I was done being the ghost in his perfect life. On the day of the mixer, a cruel coincidence struck. At 6 a.m., my diner manager called. "Reagan, we're letting you go," she announced, making excuses about budget cuts. Rent loomed large in my mind, but I thanked her mechanically before hanging up. Malia found me still in shock. "Earth to Reagan, you'll be late," she reminded me. "What's wrong?" "I lost my diner job," I replied, rising to meet the day, "but I'll figure it out." "That's not okay," she protested. "You need that job." "What I need," I countered firmly, "is to survive today without breaking down." I donned my second-hand blazer, saved for occasions like this. The alumni mixer had transformed the business building into a scene of elegance. Nervously, I scanned the room, spotting my father by the podium, Marissa at his side, and their child clinging to his leg. "Reagan," Professor Martinez greeted me warmly. "Come. There's someone you must meet." I was guided toward them, and my heart raced. "Bennett," she introduced. "This is Reagan, one of our top students, an exceptional mind on ethical leadership." Our eyes met after years, and he faltered. "Reagan, you've grown up." I replied icily, "Time does that, as do absent trust funds." Professor Martinez's smile dimmed, and Marissa shifted uneasily. "This may not be appropriate," my father began, but their child's curious question cut through air. "Who's that, Daddy?" the child asked. The silence was suffocating. I saw him falter again, take the coward's path once more. Just a student, sweetheart. Anger flared, and I declared, actually, I'm your sister, the one you won't hear about. The silence thickened like a fog. Orissa hurriedly excused herself and the child. Reagan, please, my father hissed. This isn't the time or place. When is that time? I shot back. While you share edited family portrayals online, or as you announce charitable gestures to boost your ego. You don't understand, he offered meekly. No, I corrected. I understand you traded us for a new family, but here's what you're missing. I'm not merely getting by without you. I'm succeeding. Professor Martinez touched my arm gently. Let's step outside. No need, I replied, standing taller. I have to prepare for class, something earned, not handed down. I moved to leave, but his voice halted me. I can help, he said softly. I know about your job connections. How do you know I lost my job? I demanded, incredulous. I keep tabs, he admitted, eyes evasive. Abs, I laughed bitterly. You monitor me but can't own up to being my father. That's rich. Suddenly, Elias appeared beside me as if summoned. Everything okay? He asked, calm and steady. Perfect, I replied, willing confidence into my voice despite the trembling of my hands. I was just leaving. As we departed, my father's voice echoed faintly, Reagan, wait, but I didn't stop. We walked out, crossing the quad until I collapsed near the library steps, Elias beside me in silent solidarity. Finally, I broke the quiet. I had a plan to prove how well I was doing, to show him he was wrong. You didn't make a scene, Elias argued. You stood up for yourself. Perhaps, I reflected, in ways I hadn't planned or expected. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app, staring at the numbers, mocking my independence. I can't afford to lose this job, I whispered. Elias was silent for a moment before reminding me of the scholarship initiative I had been researching. What about it? I asked, curious. Maybe it's time to stop planning and start acting, he suggested. Turn the setback into something bigger. For the first time that day, I felt a glimmer of hope. You really think we could do it? I asked, and he grinned. I think you can do anything, especially if it's about proving someone wrong. I stood up, brushing off my blazer, resolved that my father might have won the day's battle, but the war was far from over. I announced my idea for the Resilience Scholarship Fund in Professor Martinez's office. It was meant for students who lost financial support due to family abandonment. Interested, she asked me to elaborate. I explained I'd spoken with 10 other students in the same situation and outlined the proposal, noting preliminary pledges from 3 local businesses and Elias's father's law firm ready to handle legal aspects pro bono. Elias added cheekily, to spite his own father, which makes it even better. Professor Martinez reviewed the proposal thoughtfully and acknowledged, starting a scholarship fund isn't easy. That's why we're here, I said. We need a faculty board to present to the main board. She looked at me, thinking about my father's unexpected appearance at a recent mixer. Does this have anything to do with that? She questioned. Everything, I admitted, but it's not about revenge. It's about ensuring no other student has to choose between education and dignity. She nodded slowly and promised. The board meets next week, and I'll present it myself. Walking out of her office, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Elias playfully bumped my shoulder. See, I told you she'd help. We're not there yet, I reminded him. The board still has to approve. Just then Melia came running across the quad towards us. Check your email now, she urged excitedly. I pulled out my phone, though confused. The latest email made my heart stop. Congratulations. Based on your outstanding academic performance, you have been selected as this year's valedictorian. Holy! Elias breathed, reading over my shoulder. This changes everything, I whispered, realizing we could announce the scholarship at graduation in front of everyone, including my father. Will he even come? Elias asked carefully. Oh, he'll come, I said. He won't be able to resist showing off his perfect family at his alma mater ceremony. The subsequent week was a whirlwind of meetings and preparations. The board approved our scholarship proposal with astonishing enthusiasm, especially after learning about my valedictorian status. Your speech, Professor Martinez said during a planning session, needs to be powerful but professional with no direct accusations. I know, I assured her. Trust me, I've been planning this for much longer than you think. Working on my speech in the library that night, I received a surprising text from Orissa. Can we meet, please? It's important. I stared at the message before replying. Tomorrow, campus coffee shop, 2 p.m. She was already there when I arrived, nervously stirring a latte. "Thanks for coming," she began hesitantly. "I know you probably hate me." "I don't hate you," I interrupted. "I feel nothing towards you. There's a difference." She flinched but nodded. "Fair enough," she said. "Look, your father doesn't know I'm here, but he's been different since the mixer distant sad." "Guilty, you mean," I corrected, "and that's not my problem. He wants to make things right," she claimed. "By what? Throwing money at me now?" I stood up. "Tell him to save it for his next family." "Reagan, wait," Marissa grabbed my arm. "He's coming to graduation. He intends to support you." I pulled away. "He's coming to maintain his image. But don't worry, I'll give him a speech he'll never forget." The following weeks flew by. My speech went through countless revisions, every word chosen for maximum impact. Laius and Malia helped me practice until I could recite it in my sleep. The day before graduation, my father sent a text. "Proud of you, princess. Can't wait for tomorrow." I showed it to Elias during our final rehearsal. "You okay?" he asked. "What's funny," I said, staring at the message, "is a year ago those words would have meant everything to me. Now they feel empty." "Maybe because you don't need his validation anymore," Elias suggested. I looked up at him, this friend who had become so much more over the past year. "When did you get so wise?" He grinned. "Probably around the same time you got so strong." That night, I practiced in front of my mirror one last time. My graduation robe hung on the door, patiently waiting for the next day. My phone buzzed with messages from Mom, from Esther, from many well-wishers. Yet all I could think about was stepping up to that podium, looking out at the crowd, and seeing my father. He would realize that his greatest mistake wasn't leaving us but underestimating me. Because tomorrow wasn't just about a graduation. It was about transformation. And I was ready to spread my wings and soar. The auditorium buzzed with excitement as I stood backstage, adjusting my cap for the 100th time. Through the curtain, I could see the crowd filing in, proud parents, excited siblings, and beaming grandparents. "They're here," Malia whispered, peeking through a gap, third row right side. I didn't need to look to feel my father's presence like a weight in the room. "You've got this." Elias appeared beside me, already in his graduation robe. "Just breathe." "Ladies and gentlemen," the dean's voice boomed through the speakers, "please welcome this year's graduating class." Marching into pomp and circumstance, we were a sea of black robes and nervous smiles. As I crossed the stage to the podium, I caught a glimpse of them. My father in an expensive suit, Marissa holding little Sty on her lap. Mom sat on the auditorium's opposite side, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. The dean's speech passed in a blur. "Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce this year's valedictorian," he announced. "A student who maintained perfect grades while working multiple jobs, and who has already made significant contributions to our university's community, Reagan Lucas." Thunderous applause echoed as I approached the podium. Hands trembling slightly, I arranged my notes, but my voice remained steady as I began. 4 years ago, I learned a crucial lesson about family. I started scanning the crowd. Sometimes the people you would expect to support you most are the ones who let you down the hardest. The room grew silent as my father shifted uncomfortably in the third row. "There I stood in my kitchen one Sunday morning," I continued, "watching my college fund vanish, along with my dreams of higher education. However, that moment taught me something essential. Our greatest setbacks can become our strongest motivations." I paused to let the words sink in before addressing my fellow graduates. We all have our stories of struggle. Some of us worked multiple jobs while studying, others perhaps. We missed parties, lost sleep, and lacked the typical college adventure because we were busy surviving. But we're here now, we made it. Heads nodded across the audience, tears visible on several faces. My heart pounded as I made an announcement. With support from our faculty and local businesses, I'm proud to introduce the Resilience Scholarship Fund. This will offer full tuition to students who lost financial backing due to family abandonment. Murmurs spread through the crowd, and my father turned pale. "Here's what I've learned. When someone clips your wings, you don't just fly, you learn to soar and create a nest for others." For the first time, I locked eyes with my father, silently thanking him for teaching me who I didn't want to become. And to my mother, who worked tirelessly to keep food on our table while I pursued my dreams, thank you for showing me true strength. My mom was surrounded by supportive strangers offering tissues, openly crying. The first recipient of the Resilience Scholarship is a brilliant young woman whose college fund was emptied by her father to start a new family. Sound familiar, Dad? The silence in the auditorium was deafening. Marissa gripped my father's arm while he stared at the floor. But this isn't about revenge. It's about transformation and ensuring no student chooses between their education and dignity. Addressing my fellow graduates, I said, "Your struggles don't define you. Your response does." Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better. Applause began slowly and then grew into a roar. Through it all, I kept my eyes on my father, witnessing his shame and regret. Yet more importantly, I saw myself clearly, strong and whole for the first time. As I returned to my seat, Aya squeezed my hand, while Melia cried and grinned, whispering how incredible it was. But it wasn't over. The ceremony continued, and I watched my father slowly exit, shoulders slumped, leaving his perfect family behind. Karma sometimes only needs a microphone, and the truth. Post-graduation energy filled the reception hall as I stood by the scholarship information table, accepting congratulations. My speech ignited change. Dozens of students signed up to learn about next semester's applications. Reagan, a small voice called. I turned to see a little girl in a pink dress clutching a stuffed rabbit. Are you really my sister? Kneeling down, heart twisting, I confirmed, yes, I am. Before I could continue, a flustered Marissa appeared, but I reassured her it's okay. She deserves answers. Marissa quietly informed me my father left after the speech. Seems it's his specialty, I replied, this time without bitterness. My mother hugged me tightly, expressing immense pride. What's done is done, she said, emphasizing the importance of doing better now. I tugged my robe, asking if I'd come to her ballet recital next week where she'd be a butterfly. The simple request brought tears to my eyes. I'd love to, I replied as Marissa looked surprised. Even after everything? She asked. She's innocent in all of this, I answered. Maybe it's time to break the cycle. Professor Martinez then interrupted with news that local media wanted interviews about the scholarship. As I spoke to reporters, I noticed Elias speaking with Marissa. Later, he pulled me aside to inform me he tracked my father's location to Franklin Park, a place he visits frequently. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you're not done yet, and you know it, he replied simply. I found my father on a bench by the duck pond, looking smaller, older. The ducks haven't changed, I began. They still beg for bread despite signs warning against it. He jumped slightly, then laughed weakly. Remember every Sunday after pancakes? I nodded. Until you decided pancakes weren't enough anymore, I interjected. Reagan, he attempted. No, I interrupted. Let me finish. What you did was unforgivable. Leaving wasn't the worst, stealing my future and replacing me was. But I'm not worthless. I've proved it. Your daughter deserves better than a father who runs from difficulty. He looked teary-eyed. How did you become so strong? He inquired. By having no choice, I replied honestly. But now I seek peace, not just strength, not for you, but for me. What are you saying? He asked. I'm done carrying anger. I'm done with your choices defining my life. And Sty is my sister, regardless of you being my father. I declared my intention to attend her ballet recital as the sister she deserves. But you must decide what father you want to be. Brushing off my gown, I mentioned the scholarship fund's upcoming board meeting, offering him a place as a donor or my father. Your choice, I stated, walking away as he called out, Reagan, thank you. Not for forgiving me, but for becoming someone I wish I'd had the courage to be. I didn't turn back, but smiled. Sometimes closure is what you expect. Returning to the reception, Elias waited with Melia and Mom. Sty had fallen asleep in Mom's lap. You okay? Elias asked. Better than okay, I replied. I'm free. Observing my assembled chosen family, my half-sister Sty, and even Marissa nearby, I realized a profound truth. Family is about shared journeys, not just blood. My father might never be the dad I deserved, but I had become the person I needed. That was the point all along. The scholarship fund would aid others in discovering their strength. I was ready for whatever came next, not just as someone's daughter, sister, or victim, but as myself, just Reagan, and that was more than enough.